OGAccountability.com.
I've done some stupid stuff.
We all have.
We all have, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think that's the problem, though, bro. I think most people don't ever admit they've done anything stupid. They still have that image mentality. You know, if as long as it looks good on the outside, everything's copacetic.
Looks good on paper.
Kind of like,
Looks good on social media.
man, I got not an argument, a discussion. I was at Huffman Hardware, the meeting place in Huffman, and of course, the people in there were discussing the Hunter Biden trial and all that stuff, and they're like, well, he's just going to pardon him, and I said something, and you ever have somebody like look at you like, what's wrong with you? I said, I'd pardon my kid too.
Yeah.
There's not a person on the face, or at least let's just say the United States, if you had the power and the authority to save your kid, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to. So, he said he's not. He's going to pardon his son.
Oh, yeah, that's all political. Yeah. He'll commute a sentence or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'd do the same.
Yeah.
I'd do the same. Away from, my daughter murdered somebody or something like that. But,
Well, this is just low-hanging fruit for him.
That's all it is.
Going after him, just take the focus off that laptop and off of what was really going on. All the influence peddling, because that's what it was.
That's exactly right. One thing, I'm about to leave for Florida, and I was with my dad yesterday, and I said, well, there is one good thing about me leaving to go to Florida, and we're going to drive because it's not that far. Mm-hmm. He said, what's that? I said, well, it's an election year. Gas is going to come down.
Yeah.
Just
all that works just before that November, right?
Every time.
All the time.
Every time. And people buy into it.
They do.
People are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just have very short memories.
A person has the ability to be very intelligent.
Yes, they do.
I mean, there are some genetic issues. There are some. Everybody has an inherent IQ, right? That prevents them from reaching the what other people can in terms of intelligence. But everybody has an opportunity to be intelligent one way or the other. But a group of people is stupid. You know what I mean? You get a group of people together. Don't underestimate the power of stupid people in large numbers.
That's a scary thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at the Democratic Party. Look at the people protesting the Palestinians and all that, and you go and you see some upper class white kid in there, holding up a Palestinian flag. It's like, really, about struggle, huh? Tell us about your struggle, kid.
Yeah, go over there and do that. And even if you think you're what was it? That one guy went over there and I'm for y'all, and they end up killing him.
Yeah, they have no idea the way the world really works.
No,
they just want to camp out in the middle of a quad on a campus and act like they're holding some kind of strategic military position.
Well, it's kind of like growing up here in Huffman. Huffman's changed a lot.
Yeah, you think?
But when we were kids, we had some wannabe gangsters. Mm-hmm. I'm like, really?
We're in Huffman, dude.
On the streets of the 336, like, you have some hardships here. I mean, think about it. We had a great place to live, but when you don't know and you think that's a dangerous place to be. I think that's one of the most dangerous places people get is when they think they know.
It puts you on the wrong side of history. It puts you on the wrong side of what's right, for the most part.
Yeah.
These people, they don't know what they're talking about. They have no freaking clue. And you hear their interviews with them.
They can't
what about
answer a
October
question.
7th? What do you think about the babies that were killed and the people that were, the babies that were put into ovens and microwaves and the families that were slaughtered? And like, well, that's been proven that it didn't happen. No, it hasn't been proven. It did happen.
They have it on video.
It happened. Stop denying. They'll deny real truth just to advance their narrative or their agenda.
Yeah. I didn't even start off. We got Joe back with us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So is it going to be Pawpaw Joe or Grandpa Joe?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't care as long as, Tia wants me to be called Pop. So I guess I'm going to be called Pop. But Tia wants to be called Lolly. So it's like Lolly and Pop. It's like, okay, well,
Lollipop.
Do I really have a choice here?
Okay. No, you don't.
I don't.
No, you don't.
I don't.
You just nod and say
I just nod and smile and be like, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so your new grandfather just got back from out of the States, had you a good trip. And
We did have a very good trip, and it was very interesting to see the way things work. You know, and I've been over there many times, and I absolutely love Southeast Asia, and I love Cambodia. I love the Cambodian people. The Khmer people are so beautiful and friendly, and you know, they always greet you with a smile, and they don't. Their first initial instinct is not to do you harm, or even that doesn't even come to their mind. You know, it's more about how can we help you, and they're smiling and having fun. It's really, you get to see what it's like to be in a country that's not backed by the United States dollar, and it's backed by, you know, money coming from China, and you get to see how that whole dynamic works.
China only gives money if they can run the propaganda.
Well, China has come in Cambodia and really put a lot of funding into their infrastructure and really built a lot of their infrastructure. I remember when I went over there 10 years ago, it used to take us 5 hours to get from Phnom Penh to the beach. You know, because they're dirt roads and, you know, cattle and everything else you got to dodge on the way down there. Well, now they have a tollway that goes from the city all the way down to the ocean, to the Gulf of Thailand, and it's beautiful. I mean, they cut this toll road through the most beautiful parts of Cambodia, where it's, you know, you've got mountains and rubber plantations where the rubber trees are all covered in a line perfectly on both sides of the freeway, rolling up mountains. It's just gorgeous, beautiful. You know, you think it's beautiful until you're walking around and there's a snake the size of a bus there. But
when you go to we'll say third world, or just leave the United States, and it's like you said, it's a country that's not backed by the American dollar, you will come back and thank Public Works so much.
yeah,
And I'll put it up on the screen if I can find it. There's a gentleman who's doing teaching, and he does world history and economics, different things like that. China used more concrete in 15 years than the United States has used since we started using concrete.
doesn't surprise me.
Isn't that unreal to think?
It doesn't surprise me how, and because they have ramped up, you know, their whole efforts in that hemisphere, and you see where they're mining the mountains near those, like the toll road, right? They're taking the resources, the raw materials from the area they're in, and building that infrastructure for them. And of course, it's, you know, it's saving China money, but it's also, I mean, it's making life better for the Cambodians.
Yeah.
So I mean, can you really if you're a Cambodian, can you really complain?
No.
No, not at all.
No, and progress comes. Hey, just like yesterday, we have this new place called the Cajun House here in Huffman. This guy and his family came from right out of Kinder, Louisiana. Some of the best food I've ever eaten in my life here in Huffman.
Yeah.
And I really hope he makes it. Great people, but progress comes, and sometimes people don't like progress. But if you're going to get progress, let it be good.
Well, I mean, if it's going to better someone's quality of life,
Yeah.
you know, the ability. And one of the most impressive things that I saw when I was down there wasn't even the highway. It was the electrical infrastructure that they had built all the way from the city down to the ocean. And you see it, the big power line, you know, the big power stations along the way, you know, that are getting people electricity and power for the very first time. That have probably never had, you know, 5 years ago probably didn't have it at all.
That's wild to think of. You ever heard of a guy named Billy Carr? I think that's his name. He's a British comedian. He was on a podcast, and he was talking, and he said something that just like we don't think about, but when you really stop and think about it, he said, and his math may be wrong, but he said 70 years ago, no one in the U.S. took a hot shower.
That doesn't seem like that long ago, does it?
Doesn't seem like that long ago.
No.
And you just like, and then you realize now growing up, and my dad would talk about the cabin that they had. He's like, we didn't have running water. We had an outhouse. And if you took a bath or a shower, you either had or it was baths. You either had to heat the water up yourself or you had to take a cold bath, and you're just kind of like, up, snow both ways to school
Right.
and all this stuff. And then you just realize, God, progress really has come. I was sitting with my daughter the other night, and we were watching these YouTube guys. There's some guys on there that do a lot of educational stuff. and they started talking about the internet. And the United States is so far behind on internet. And she was just kind of like, I said, well, yeah, we live in America. We always think, in every aspect we're number one. But we are so far behind on internet, on a public internet. I mean, there's places in other countries where you go, everywhere there's internet. Everywhere you go. And you look at certain issues, and I finally looked at her and said, babe, you do realize America is only 7 or 8% of the population of the world.
Yeah, the world is a very big place.
Yes, it is.
It is a very big place.
You were literally on the other side of the world. You can't go any further.
Can't go any further
until you start heading back.
It was jet lag was brutal. It was brutal.
I bet.
And on the way back, the trip over there, we usually go over the poles, and travel up along the Canadian coast, over Alaska, Bering Sea, Russia, Japan, and then into Taipei. Well, on the way back, I don't know if they had bad weather in the Bering Sea or what, but we went out over the Pacific. It was like as soon as we got out over open water, it was turbulence all the way to the coast of California. So it was not easy to get any rest on that plane.
No. Man, what the heck has been going on with planes lately?
I don't know. That made me nervous, though.
I
don't want to be. I don't want to be somewhere in the northern Pacific and a door fly off at 30,000 feet.
Yeah, that's wild. So, a friend of mine sent me a video. People think, oh, the door flew off, they'll just land. It may take them 2 hours to land.
Yeah.
So those people in that seat next to the door, and they send a video, and I don't know if it's the stewardess taking the. I'm not supposed to say stewardess. The flight attendant
now
is taking a video, and I mean they're just sitting there gritting, and they have to do that for a couple hours.
As those bolts are wiggling their way out, those rivets are starting to work their way free.
Oh man, we just look at certain things. We really don't have a clue a lot of times how the world really operates.
No,
and I'm thankful for that. I love America. I am very thankful. That's why I don't want it to change. I don't want America to change at all. I want us to be free.
Well, it's changing, and
quickly.
Never in my lifetime did I think I'd see such an effort to keep somebody, out of office, regardless of how people out there feel about, Donald Trump. What's going on right now with that guy is
it's insane.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
It's insane.
It's completely outrageous.
And when you get liberal media, Today Show, MSNBC, and some of their correspondents are saying this is making him more popular than ever, and not just on I hate using the word right, but from people that are middle of the road, and people on the left are going, wait a second.
Yeah, I saw a poll the other day. It was extremely insightful. It talked about the middle or the independent vote, right? And that group always has a healthy distrust for government, right?
Yeah.
And I think I fall out right there on the edge of that group as well. All right, I mean I've seen what government can do, but out of those polls, since they have that healthy distrust, right? The ones polled. The poll was, do you feel that you're going to more likely to vote for Donald Trump if he's convicted than if he's not convicted? 72% of those independents said they will vote for Donald Trump if he's convicted, because they already have a healthy distrust for government anyway, and they don't like government overstepping, and this was a huge overstep.
Take all the political mumbo jumbo out of it. And of course now they're investigating, I can't remember that DA's name in New York.
Bass.
Yeah. So now they're investigating him. They're going to find that there's corruption, just like what was that lady's name? Fannie, the lady, the prosecutor that hired
Fannie Lewis.
Yeah, that hired her boyfriend, and they lied on the stand. Mm-hmm. They perjured themselves. Proven. If you and I did that, the judge would look at you and make an example out of you. Mm-hmm. He'd be like, you're going to jail.
I'd like to. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with this Hunter Biden sentencing.
What about the tax stuff?
The tax stuff isn't even, and that's, I think, where they're going to get more into where this money come from. And they made a huge mistake by introducing evidence in the gun trial from the laptop,
Yeah.
because now all those stories and all those security professionals that came out and said it was Russian disinformation, now they look stupid.
Look like idiots.
Yeah, because it had nothing to do with Russian disinformation. You just got a conviction off the information that came off of it.
Yeah. And this is the thing that hit me. This isn't Arkansas, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska. This is California coming against him.
Yeah.
The most liberal state in the union. They're the ones coming after him.
Well, what I'm finding fascinating is watching the minority vote. How do they feel? How do those in the African American community feel about, a guy getting away if he's not sentenced to, some prison time over this? How do all those families feel when their loved one got locked up for a weapons violation?
Yeah.
And they threw the book at him.
They threw the book at him. And they will. It's a federal crime.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't like a misdemeanor. This isn't I got pulled over for not using my blinker.
No, it's 10 years.
Yeah.
At minimum for each charge, isn't it? I think he's looking up to 25 because he lied on the document.
3 times.
Yeah.
So I can't remember the guy's name, but he said, you can make a mistake once on a government form and not realize, because sometimes they ask the same question over and over again, just worded differently. But when you do it 3 times, that was on purpose. And it's just going to be real interesting.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
he knew he was
of course
lying.
he did.
I mean,
Then we look. We're talking about the middle of the road. Matrongo was here, and of course he is a huge RFK supporter.
Yeah.
And I really like, man, what the heck is going? What, his house has now been broken into for the 3rd time. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, his house has been broken into nonstop. They won't give him.
Yeah, Mike's a real middle of the road guy. He's a level-headed thinker too. That's why I like Mike. Mike will tell you what's on his mind, and it generally has a purpose behind it.
Absolutely.
It's just not backed by an ideology. Even Mike's come out and said this thing and he's not a Trump fan at all, but even he came out and said, he'll support him after this, fiasco in New York.
I'm curious to see, because if RFK really does, of course, the what is it? The middle party, they don't want him.
No.
So I wonder who he is going to endorse.
I don't know.
I've been curious about it. It's got to happen pretty soon.
It will, but I think he'll stay in. I think he'll stay in just to be a disruptor. But I don't think that's going to matter. I think the polls, and I don't like following them, but come on. Even Stevie Wonder can see that this is,
Yes, yeah,
what's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that insensitive?
No. Not to Stevie.
I'm not worried about
Stevie knows he's blind. It's the people who can see that get offended.
Right.
Yeah, blind people don't
Blind
care.
people don't care.
Yeah, they're like, what do I care?
I know. And I'll have some white human studies grad yelling at me about this.
We see people climbing on top of university buildings, flying the Hamas flag. Do you know what would happen to anybody that climbed on any top of one of their buildings and held a U.S. flag?
Oh, yeah. They'd be thrown off.
They'd be thrown off.
Yeah. And here, I don't want to compare apples to apples there, because we do live in a country where that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? And I know there's those out there who be like, well, maybe it should. No, it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't. Look, if them going up there and waving a flag, do I find it extremely disrespectful to say, of course I do. Right? I think it's abhorrent. But at the same time, I don't think they need to be thrown in a federal prison for 20 years for doing it. They're just stupid kids.
We live in a free country. You have the right to be heard.
Yeah.
But you don't have the right to be right because you think it.
Right.
And that is where we've gotten to. I'm not trying to pick on Biden, but he said,
why not?
Well, it's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Where he said, we choose, what did he say, feelings over facts, or we choose...
what did he... Some political word salad that he used.
But he's like, we basically we make
Truth
up
over facts,
Yeah,
or
we-
something like that. It's like that doesn't make any sense.
no, but basically what he's saying is we say it 3 times and we already know we're going to have a backing that believe us no matter what.
Yeah, and that's true. People hear it and they take that as gospel, like that is coming down from the mountains, and it's not.
It's not.
And people have forgotten to look deeper into things. They've lost the ability to. One, because they've lost the ability to do research on their own.
Yeah.
That's it. They've gotten lazy because they have a plethora of information at their fingertips through the internet. But the thing is, they'll only look at stories that back their.
Most of them are looking at dancing kids and girls and guys on TikTok and
Right.
funny videos, and they don't have
They're
any
not
clue.
looking into
No.
geopolitical movements and how this works and how A affects B. They're not looking at that stuff. They only look at the surface. And what's usually on the surface is how they feel about something.
Absolutely.
Emotional.
It's my feelings. It's emotion. Get everything ramped up. And this is what's amazing to me. We haven't heard anything about BLM because even those in the African American community got fed up with it. So
We're not supporting them.
So it can't be a talking point anymore. So remember the last election, it was all BLM, and I'm not African American, but I will tell you, hey Biden, it was so important to you 4 years ago, and now you don't even mention it at all. Mm-hmm. People, wake up, use your eyes, look around, and realize in the political arena, all they care about is getting your vote in the moment,
Yeah.
and then they're off to the next.
Their policies and priorities change with whatever emotional, issue or response they can get out of people at the time.
And if we don't really educate, especially our children, Liz, she said it so. And when you think about it, we are the last. Our age group is the last of the old world. We have we have it instilled in us that we look for information because when we wanted to know something, you had to go get an encyclopedia. You had to find it. But this younger generation doesn't. They just, well, that's all fine and dandy. But your grandson, my grandchildren, when they're coming from a generation that doesn't look, they just listen to what they're told. What hope do they ever have of truly ever knowing the truth?
They're not, because they can be engineered.
Well, I never thought about it like that. And that's,
Right?
that's
easier. It's easier to be manipulated and engineered a certain way. It's scary.
It's frightening.
Yeah, it's scary.
And I didn't think like this 10 years ago.
No.
This is ramped up so fast. And I'm going to tell you another thing that I have a good friend of mine, and we grew up together. You probably know him. And he's Hispanic. So he would call me all the time. He'd get ammo, different things like that. And so we just, got to talking. And I asked him point blank, I said, do you think dreamers and those that are seeking asylum should have the right to vote? And this is what he said to me. He goes, well, with what has been going on, I don't think they want them to vote anymore, because where we come from and some of my family, and he has family members that are over here on work visas that have done it properly. He said, you don't see this crap in Mexico. You don't see guys going in girls' restrooms, running around in skirts, acting fools in the streets, dancing around half naked. He's like, that's not part of our culture. He said, it's there, but that's not part of our culture.
Right.
And then we come over here and we have a whole month dedicated to, homosexuality. He goes, which is great. He's like, what does you being a homosexual have to do with getting half naked, parading around in the streets? You're seeing it in the commercials. You're seeing it in the schools. You're seeing it everywhere you go. And he goes, that's not part of our culture.
No. I thought that, I thought they'd overplayed their hand too, because they're bringing over a bunch of, here's the problem though. It's not only those devout Catholics coming over anymore. Okay. If you look at those people coming across the border, Chinese, Middle East, people from Middle Eastern descent, Middle Eastern countries. You're not seeing as many Central America and South Americans anymore. I mean, you are, don't get me wrong, and you're seeing a lot of the gang members coming over. They don't really care. I don't even think they're going to get over here and have they're not going to want to vote. You know, I mean, why do they care? They're here to break laws. They're not here to.
Yeah, they're not law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, they don't care about they're going to break the law regardless of who's in office.
They have their own constitution. The Constitution of the United States doesn't matter at all.
No,
You know,
no, they have their own personal constitution. That's to get what, and I'm not talking about all of them. All right, there are people that really need to come over here and work, and they are escaping something. My wife escaped something, right? So, who am I to say? If you're coming over here from Venezuela, great, because I know you've lived under an oppressive government for over a decade now. The problem is the Venezuelan gangs that are coming over here. It's the organized crime that's coming over here. They're the ones orchestrating all those attacks in New York City on the mopeds and on the scooters, where they're going and grabbing people's stuff and bailing on them, beating them up and leaving. So that's kind of, we don't want those people here, but at the same time, I don't think they're interested in voting. Now, would somebody, if they say, "Hey, I'll take you to go vote and buy you an iPhone,"
heck, call me.
Yeah,
it's speaking of Venezuela, we have a couple, wonderful young couple, probably early 30s. He had to get out of Venezuela. He had to go, and he's an engineer. And the 5th time that they were held hostage at work for ransom, guns held to the head, people beat, women raped. He's like, I've got to get my family out of here. And it has been an ongoing battle for them to be here. And at any time, they don't know if they're going to be revoked and have to go back. And he's doing everything by the book. And he loves people, but he's like, it's so hard for my wife and I because we're doing this how they asked us to, and we get treated horribly. He's not on government assistance. He got a great job here. He's a taxpayer. He's not asking for anything other than let me live here, work here. When I take my oath, when y'all let me become a citizen, I will pledge to the United States and abide by the laws, which I already do. But y'all are making it so hard on me to get there, and I'm watching all this stuff go on, and I don't want anything except let me work and take care of my family. And that's sad.
Yeah. My son's Venezuelan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our neighbors are Brazilian, and he's got a good job, right? Works for a big oil and gas company here in Houston. He's an engineer, and they are giving him hell about his visa. He had to go to Canada and stay there for a certain amount of time to get his visa and then come back.
Crazy.
And he's doing it the right way. He's educated. He gets up every day and goes to work. His family came over here doing it the right way, like they're supposed to, and he's catching hell over it.
It really is disheartening. I mean, it really is. I have friends here from Russia. Same thing. He had his wife and kids had to go back because he's here working because they finally said, no, you got to go.
Yeah.
You're here on a work visa. They're not, and they're back in Russia. I won't say where, but they're in Russia.
Yeah, pretty unstable there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. And he's thankful his kids are at the age they're at. He said, if my son was 6 years older, they just pick him up on the street and say, you're going to war.
Yeah, he conscripted him right there on the side of the road.
Right. I mean, you could be sitting there eating a bowl of ice cream, and they pull up, get in, and you're going to go.
Yeah.
You are going to go. I'm so thankful for America. I just got to tell you, sometimes we talk about what's going on, and people say, well, you don't love America. No, I do love America. That's why I'm so passionate about standing for our Constitution that we were founded on. Mm-hmm. And we're really the youngest nation on the face of the earth. These other places have been around for thousands and thousands of years. What now we're 200 and, I don't know. I went to Huffman. I can't do math.
80-something.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're young. Mm-hmm. And we rose quick. We are a nation of laws. We are a nation of law-abiding citizens. And if we didn't have laws, anything would be a go. But why are we choosing just to say, okay, well, there's a gray area here? No, there is no gray area when it comes to laws. Go ask did you see the video of the guy who got a ticket for driving with a suspended license, so he got permission to be on Zoom call and not go in to see the judge. He's on Zoom driving, and the judge is like, "Are you driving?" Like, what in the and threw the book at him.
Now, whenever I said groups of people are stupid, you do have the outlier every now and
Oh God! I mean, how stupid? Or what about the guy that got arrested for stealing like a Tennessee Titans jersey, and he showed up to court wearing the jersey that he said he didn't steal?
You know, is he doing that? Is he doing that to boast, or is he just really that completely clueless?
We don't know anymore, Joe.
Did he not have any more? You know, did he not have anything else clean? You know, I mean,
And
what's the deal?
I have. So we're going to Florida, and one of Peyton's little girlfriends is coming, and she said, "Dad, is it okay if I bring my Trump flag?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you want to bring your Trump flag for?" And she's like, "Well, me and the girl, we want to use them to lay on to suntan." And at first I was like, "No, I don't feel like it." And then I'm like, "No, bring them.
Yeah,
Absolutely bring them."
you're in Florida.
Yeah, you're in Florida. But, if somebody says something, hey, have a good day. See you later. I don't care what you have to say, but that is where that thought process wants to get Americans to be, is be docile and be afraid to stand up for who you are.
Yeah, that's their goal.
Yeah.
So you don't express your opinion. You don't express your First Amendment rights,
And we're seeing it backfire, just like cancel culture, what they're doing with comedians. That has completely backfired on them.
Yeah, it
completely. And they're finding out the majority of Americans hate what's going on. You just watch TV and you're hearing from 10% of the country. You're hearing from a small majority or minority.
Yeah, nobody's getting their news off the. I mean, people still do, but it's a very small percentage that's getting their news that way. They're getting most of it off social media.
Ratings are down like 30-40% with some of these news corporations.
Yeah,
Good.
anytime you get a new communication platform that's going to give out information and data, you know.
Have you heard of 1440 News? You have to read. They don't send you videos. You have to read. But all it is what's going on in the world. They send you an email like every morning about 8 o'clock.
Cool, like an intel brief.
Yeah, and you have to read what's going on. See, most people, I'm not going to read.
Yeah,
and you have to read what's going on, but it's not biased. They just tell you what's going on, and
I like that.
And I love it. I read it every morning.
It's like Crystal and Sager. What is it? Breaking Points.
Yes.
Yeah. They do the same thing.
There's some, and I tell you who I've been seeing a little bit, and when you can tell somebody's contract controlled who they were, is watch when they get out from under that contract. But remember Megyn Kelly? Mm-hmm. She's got her own podcast now. Boy, she's back to the first Megyn Kelly we knew years ago before she blew up, and they were like, well, you can't say this. Now she says it all.
But she's got her own. She's free to do it now. She's got her own deal.
It's easy to do when you got like $20 million in the bank.
Yeah.
And I'm not good for her.
Yeah,
good for her. We need people that are on a platform and a voice that will tell the truth and not be afraid to do so.
Yeah, and I think that these type of podcasts and other online subscriptions or online news platforms are good. I think they're healthy.
Megan, call me. Right. Or I know you had to see the Dr. Phil episode just recently that he did about Biden economics.
Yeah.
You have to make $11,389 more dollars than you did 4 years ago.
I know.
That's
telling.
Just to break even.
Yeah, that right there should drive every person in the middle class to the polls to go vote. That alone, when you're going and spending, they always bring up produce and things like that when they're talking about inflation. Okay, they always bring up the big ticket items, right? Produce and dairy. But what they don't do is they don't get down into the weeds with the other stuff. Things like sugar, cereals. There were some products that had been marked up. They're 200-300% over the last 4 years.
Yeah,
that's insane.
That's insanity.
That's where that grocery bill for us, you know, $150 a month, what it used to be 3 or 4 years ago. Now you're looking at $300 a week. All right, that's $1,500. You know, for some people, that's a house note.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Precisely.
what you're spending on groceries now.
Yeah, since we're heading to Florida, I do all the cooking. So I'm like, I don't want to cook. We got a house or big condo and it's got a full kitchen. And at first I thought, I'm gonna cook, and just save some money, because you can eat your whole trip away, just in food. So I'm like, no, we're gonna go out to eat. So Pay and I went to Denny's. She ordered chicken strips, and I'm like, man, I hadn't had chicken strips in years. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the chicken strips. 2 drinks for her and I, with tip, $41. And I'm like,
At Denny's.
We're not in a tourist destination. Everything up there is going to be jacked up. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what?
We're cooking.
I'm like, and it's great because, and I'm sure you've been able to get there with your daughter, and all of them, like, telling them, hey, this is how money works. I'm now letting Peyton see, baby, we can eat nice steaks every single night while we're on vacation. I'll grill you shrimp and still save money versus eating out. But they're starting to catch up to each other, to where eating at home is almost getting to the point where it's almost expensive.
Didn't I see something the other day where another chicken factory burned down or something? Like 1 million chickens were killed? How does this happen?
I don't know.
You had the explosion that killed all those cattle.
Yeah.
And you've had several of these, large, agricultural, operations, just completely get burnt down, or I don't know what's going on, but
one's a fluke, 2 possibly, but I mean there's been
half a dozen.
Yeah, that just makes you go, is it an inside job, insurance?
Is somebody pissed off?
It's kind of like a fire chief, a good friend of ours. You know him. When he retired and I started asking him questions, he goes, 95% of all fires are arson.
Yeah.
We just had to figure out who started it. And he said, when it's a business owner. Even if we can't prove it, we know, yeah, we can tell the way the fire was formed, where it started. And he's like, and we're seeing that more and more and more and more. That's why our insurance rates are going through the roof. My house insurance went up $127 a month. I've never had one claim. My car insurance went up $187 a month. I've never had a ticket or a wreck. I've had a wreck, but I have nothing on my record because they hit me. And I'm like, what am I paying for? People are like, you need to shop your insurance. I'm like, I did.
Yeah.
I did. And it just,
everything's up.
Everything
is up.
except wages.
Yeah. And I saw an argument the other day. A liberal strategist was trying to argue that, wages are up. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're not up. Okay? Stop going out there and giving out false data that's not true. People like that, they're enemy of the state as far as I'm concerned.
100%
They're
they are.
enemy of the state.
Yes. When you are spreading false information,
Propaganda.
it's like Don Lemon. He's been confronted so many times on things that he has said that were complete and utter lies. He won't recant. He won't do anything.
Didn't him or Cuomo get called out on a show? Weren't they on a morning show or something? And
that was Lemon.
Was it?
Yeah.
And they were talking. He was trying to say, I never said that they were taking horseworm or whatever, and they played the clip right in front of him.
That wasn't me.
And
that's AI generated.
And he's still sitting there trying to deny that that's what he was saying. It's like, no, that's a direct quote. We just played it for you, and you're still going to sit there and try to deny it.
Oh man, I bet to sneeze. Let's take a break. We'll jump right back.